so much denial and so much they can hear before they're sitting there going, no, we're not playing well, we're not doing well, and we don't see a future with you here because of everything that we're hearing. So they're not playing well. I mean, I think they're averaging under 20 points per game. I mean, even if somehow they made the playoffs with a wild card, I couldn't see them getting out of the first round. And in fact, I think the Chargers have a legitimate shot at beating them this weekend at home. So there's a lot missing there, and they're being affected in many ways, both on offense and on defense. And to answer your question, I could see him not being there. I could see the 49ers, if they don't release him from his contract, hanging him out there for somebody to take from them.
The 49ers are a team where they're the perfect illustration because they've had recent success where no matter what talent you have on the roster, no matter how smart your coach may be regarding the game of football, if it doesn't all come together and get executed in just the right way, it blows up in your face.
Yeah.
Kind of similar to what's going on in Chicago because there's talent on that roster, but you can't really say that they're in the same boat because the 49ers have been far more successful than the Bears recently. But if is that 49ers roster that much less talented than the team that went to the Super Bowl? I don't think so.
I would argue their secondary probably isn't as talented.
They got holes, but can that team win?
They should be able to.
Yeah. That's what I would think. They just don't.
And speaking of self-fulfilling prophecies, and not to harp on the Bears, because my understanding is you had yourself a nice little
23 minutes, buddy. 23 minutes in the first segment.
I'm not sure. Was it a tantrum or a tirade or something? A little bit of both.
It was a rant using evidence and facts.
Okay. Well, just like the story that broke today by Dan Bernstein that there's an expectation that Trestman won't be the head coach or he'll get fired at the end of the season. Maybe that's the right way to say it. I mean, it's sort of self-fulfilling. If it doesn't happen, people are going to be like, well, why didn't it happen? We thought it was going to happen.
Right.
Well, and now it seems there's if you're Mark Trestman and you hear this, even if it's a rumor, it can't feel good.
No, absolutely not. But here's the thing is that in light of all of the little drama that's gone on, and in my diatribe in the first segment, I made sure it was clear that I'm not exonerating Jay Cutler when I say that you can't pin this all on Cutler because it's the entire team from top to bottom. It's a mess. There's not one aspect of this team that is good. Not offense, not defense, not special teams, nothing. There's not one aspect of this team that is good.
Even the Water Boys.
Seriously.
They're not getting out on the field quick enough.
I saw a Water Boy on the sideline yesterday. He had the bottle upside down. That's how bad it is in Chicago. Where was I going with this? What the hell were we talking about?
Well, we were talking about the 49ers and whether or not, in fact, Harbaugh would end up losing his job.
Yeah, and then you start talking about Trestman getting fired. You can get fired for not because you don't get fired sometimes because you're a bad coach necessarily, but because you don't manage the team very well. All of this drama that's gone on between the 49ers have locker room issues too, but the Bears are in the same boat. There's no leader, and if your players aren't going to lead, then the coach has to. In a perfect world, it's both. The coach sets the goals, and you've got people to keep the locker room in the right direction. But if the players are refusing to step up, be that leader, then the coach has to.
Yeah, and Mark Trestman does not strike me as a fellow that's going to just run into the locker room like a Mike Ditka, raise his voice, swear, start throwing things.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that Mike Ditka did any of those things, but we could all picture him doing it.
But but those teams were fired up and they played with a chip on their shoulder. What you're seeing is from the Bears every week is they're playing football like a bunch of intellectuals. You know what I mean? There's no physicality to the Chicago Bears anymore.
Yeah, I wouldn't even say they're playing football like a bunch of intellectuals. I'm not sure. There's there's no organization, there's no execution, there appears to be no confidence. Players are, I mean, you could visibly see players aren't where they're supposed to be, or in Cutler's case, he's throwing the football where he thinks a player should be, and the player's not there, or on defense, they're not setting up properly. And
well, like that interception to Marcus Wilson at the end of the first half. Mm-hmm. Wilson ran the wrong route.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And but what, you know what I mean? At this point, and I know he missed most of the season.
And he's let's just remind everyone, he's a rookie.
He's a second-year man, isn't he?
Marquess Wilson?
Yeah, I thought Marcus Wilson was a second year.
Oh, I thought he was a rookie. Well, either way, first or second year.
He missed most of the year with a broken collarbone. He broke.
There we go. There we go.
So at the same time, so he's missing reps. He got called for a false start. A wide receiver got called for a false start. I mean, it's just nothing is going right.
Yeah.
So and you can say, well, good franchises don't change their coaches that often. Well, when you have an operation running like this, everybody needs to get cleaned.
Okay, let's not hang on. You had 23 minutes. You had 23 minutes. Let's not add too much to that.
Well, the parallel is that in San Francisco, the same thing is happening. It's not transitioning. So if you're San Francisco's ownership, you're asking yourself, do you believe that Jim Harbaugh can come back next season with a clean slate, possibly the same roster of players with minor changes, and get you back to where you were 2 years ago?
Here's the thing. I would say no, because if you can't do it with basically the same players, how's the season going to make a difference? But I think if you're the 49ers, you're also going to have to look at that roster and figure out where's our leadership? Why aren't we getting some people to step up and carry the team, even if the coaches aren't? I mean, in spite of having a coach you don't like or a bad coach, you as a leader, if you're a player that leads the team, you should be able to rally your guys, the people that you play with, to still play well, despite the bad leadership from the coaching.
Right.
And I mean, if we're talking about Jim Harbaugh and we're talking about Mark Trestman, we might as well talk about Joe Philbin as well.
Yep.
I mean, story broke on him too that his days are numbered with Miami, and he's had 3 or 4 seasons to get things turned around. I will admit that the seasons he's been there, they've been hit by the injury bug pretty much every single season, and he's done, I think, a tremendously good job to keep the team somewhere around 500, despite all that. And yet, he's had his little things go on over there that, he doesn't seem to be on top of. Controversy as well as just underperformance.
Yeah, what we're talking about right now with Trestman and Harbaugh, he had last year with Jonathan Martin and Richie Incognito in the locker room and that whole mess. So, and the Dolphins came back this year and were playing decent football for a stretch.
Oh, yeah. I mean, one of the best defenses in the league. Now they're getting hit by the injury bug. And it's hard to look at their offense, even though they've sustained some injuries there as well, and not look around and say, you have a talented group of guys. From Mike Wallace to Landry. Now, they did get hit as the running back situation has never been good or hasn't been good, and that's just something that drives me nuts as an analyst. How can't you have 3 decent running backs in the modern NFL? Any one of which that could start.
Right. Makes
no sense to me. None.
Well, I think we've also gotten to a point where we realize that in the NFL, if your offensive line is good, then it doesn't matter who you got in the backfield.
I don't know about that.
I think you can make a
mediocre. Some running backs run well despite their offensive lines.
Well, yes, the really good running backs can, but if you focus on that offensive line, you don't need to spend money on a big running back. You can have a mediocre running back have some pretty fantastic seasons if your line is good.
Oh, sure. You could be a great running back if there was a hole the size of the Grand Canyon for you to run through.
Not with the way my hip's acting up today.
Well, yeah, we just got to get you on the Weight Watchers thing for a little bit.
What's funny is that they opened up.
By the way, are they paying me to say that?
No, they're not.
They should
be. Take it back.
I take it back. Take it back. Rewind everything.
By the way,
it's deleted.
Did you see, not to keep talking Bears, but did you see there's a YouTube video to the song "Say Something." You know that song, "Say Something, I'm Giving Up on You."
Yeah, I know the song.
Yeah, there's a video they put to the Bears to that about Jay Cutler, "Say Something, I'm Giving Up on You."
So I missed out on the press conference, and apparently there wasn't much of one.
Well, he ducked out before anybody got there.
Oh,
see, it depends. I saw the news reports first that says, "Oh, nobody showed up to Jay Cutler's press conference." Well, no, because he got out of the locker room and went to the podium, and got out of there before the reporters had left the locker room to go to the podium.
Oh, see, my understanding was he was there. Reporters were there. No one was asking any questions, and he kind of shrugged his shoulders and said, "Okay," and he walked away.
Because there was only 2 reporters in the room.
There we go.
Yeah, he just didn't want to, because he knew what he was going to get. He gets all of the blame. There's been no successes, so you can't say he gets none of the credit. But
well, and he had some things to answer for. I mean, like I said, you're sitting there saying, whose fault was this? Was it Jay's? Was it the wide receivers? Was there a lack of coaching? There are some very tough and difficult questions that everybody wants to ask right now. And unfortunately, they're not the kinds of questions you want to answer in any way, shape, or form. But they're there.
And I think we're at the point now where, and this is not because I still believe that a team can be successful with Jay Cutler as quarterback. I still believe that. But I think now the only cure for the Bears is the death penalty, and just to raise the franchise from the front office on down and start from scratch. And if it takes 5-6 years, it takes 5-6 years. I don't know. It's that bad.
Ideally, the Hallises and McCaskies would sell the team, but the problem there is, can you get a group of investors to put up the kind of money that the franchise is worth? And that is likely not going to happen. Just not going to happen.
Slightly inflated worth, too.
Well, no, because the reality is they have a market. They do have a certain income stream. They do draw a certain crowd to the national, TV audience. I mean, and there's obviously revenue sharing of some sort in the NFL. So it's worth something.
It's so bad that George McCaskey went to his seats last night in the lower bowl section, and there were Saints fans sitting in his seats. And when he went to go get security, the Saints fans came up behind him and shoved him in the back.
Wow, that's pretty amazing. I hope they were ejected immediately.
Well, they're being arrested and charged. So,
well, I wanted to just, because I'm sure we should probably be moving on to the next segment at some point here, but let's just a couple things from this weekend. How about the Baltimore Ravens? I mean, it wasn't a very impressive win that they had, but they're certainly a team that's still in the hunt in their division.
This is a letdown game for me, though, because I know Jacksonville's better than their record and their stats say, but to win at home by only 8 to Jacksonville, it doesn't give me any credit.
Oh, and that's what I mean. It wasn't. It was bad. It was not good. Fred Goodman for the FantasyGreek.com wrote the game review, and he made that exact point. Oh, that how is it that you're playing a team that's as bad as Jacksonville, and your offense is they didn't do anything. It was really the defense and special teams that won the game.
I thought it was a good week for Kansas City, even though I know it was just the Raiders, but they had lost to the Raiders earlier this season. So I thought that was a good bounce back game for them.
But I don't like them for the playoffs. I think they're going to be sadly surprised at the end of the season when they take a team that I know they're missing a few players from last season's what were they, 13-3?
Yes,
13-3 team that I'm sure is impacting them this season, but it's not that many players. And yet it looks like they're going to completely miss the playoffs, and they certainly don't look anything like the 13-3 team that played last year.
Yeah, it's a tale of two seasons if you're a Chiefs fan.
Yeah.
So, and I was really, if you're a Vikings fan, you have to be feeling good too, because even though you lost, that team is making strides. They're going in the right direction.
They definitely are, and it's sad that there are several teams that fit what I'm about to describe is The Vikings are a team that are missing a key playmaker, sort of a leader